Yeah, I was like, I was gonna just like try to review the book for them. So I emailed Mercedes and I was like, hey, I want to review this book. And I'm like, would he be up for an interview? Or I'm like, yeah, that'd probably be better for like, definitely do that. So it worked out.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I love that book, man. It's so beautiful. It's just, I shared the one about the newspapers. Right. Sue, if you think of it tomorrow, can you tell Adam I'll need his power washer and extension ladder again? I'm too cheap to buy these things, and I think it's good for me to be borrowing from people. It keeps the neighborhood alive with talk. So few of us have anything light to talk about these days. You're in blue scrubs and a half roundel where an electric candle burns. We wave to each other from across the road. The window I look out of is a flat square, like something out of Euclid, a proposition concerning two right triangles making spinnakers of shadow. Through this window, the road seems even smoother than it is. I'm trying to read a book called The Bark-Covered House, but it's hard to make a forest of the street, a 19th century agrarian past out of our subdivision. It's a defect of the reader. Not that the story's too remote. The planes were loud this afternoon along their landing routes. I'll tell you Thursday over trash. Then you'll also end up listening to planes nearing Detroit from nowhere and noting their noise to others during shifts. Can you hear those planes from Beaumont Hospital where people float belly down like divers, their snorkels drawing air from stertorous machines? Hardened capillaries wiring fibrotic lungs, like the Georgian window panes that line their rooms. I see Adam is off on an errand. He's not the first man to embark on a Good Friday beer run in an F-150, but he's the only one I've ever observed and wondered about. I've wondered, but this shouldn't be mistaken for wonderment. There's enough of that kind of obfuscation going around. If a Friday is truly good, there will be a final beer run or a trip to the neighborhood bar for several penultimate calls, never a last call. If a Friday is truly good, it ends at dawn. The cedars cast shadows in your driveway, spindly as Giacometti's men. The siding is mossed in its grooves. I see flames in your backyard, the kind of fire that burns modestly in a store-bought aluminum pit, or, forgive me, in our wizened hearts. And the short story collection, Difficult People. Her poems have appeared in American Poetry Review, The Walrus, and Magma, and they have been anthologized in The Next Wave, an anthology of 21st century Canadian poetry, and in Best Canadian Poetry 2015 and...
Thank you so much for having me read here tonight, John, and for reading with all these other wonderful writers. What a treat. So this is my first reading not on Zoom in 3 years, so I'm extremely excited. Thank you all for keeping your cameras on. I appreciate it. So yeah, this is my new book, Continuity Errors. It officially comes out May 23rd, and this is my first time reading from it, so thank you for being here. Title poem first. So a continuity error, as a reminder, is a lapse in self-consistency in a scene in a movie or a TV show. So at one moment somebody's wearing a red sweater and for some reason when the camera goes back to them, they're wearing a blue sweater. So I kind of try to imagine what it would be like if in the real world our lives were full of continuity errors and how that would feel. So it's called Continuity Errors. Bullet holes dot the wall, hours before the big shootout. The glass of pink lemonade replenishes with every sip. The postman's mole roves his stubbled face. These errors are so common, it should be no surprise when the dying ash in our yard bursts into cherry blossoms. Our apartment is on Bloor when it isn't on Bathurst. I laugh and my hair is a bob, I nod into a blonde pixie. The baby we didn't have throws mashed squash on the floor. We flicker between possibilities, mourn, are reborn over and over. I clean pale vomit off the tiles, first teal, then desert blush. In the final cut, our lives, sputtering and contrary, already vaster than us.
Poems have appeared in Plowshares, Agni, Best New Poets, and Cincinnati Review, and all sorts of really impressive places. You also you did your undergrad at Oakland University, and so that's cool.
Thank you. For the first time for the most part. Thanks for being here, coming out for poetry. I love having poems as like this reason to like gather around, and especially I think everybody seems to be like sort of coming out of their cages still, and like I know for me it's like, okay, how to human in front of other humans again. And I don't, it's worth it. That's all I can say. Yeah, the book came out a little over a month ago officially, so it's still a baby a little bit in that way. It's a book about taking place in the Detroit sprawl. That's the sprawl of the title. I also say sort of the sprawl of history. It's the history sort of constantly pressing in, and sort of my wandering around oblivious to it at some point as part of the inspiration for that. So, without further ado, this is a poem called Perpetual Motion, which may speak to that perpetual present in a different way, that feeling. Every day an emergency, Adrian Rich says, I think that's the feeling of it. But anyway, Perpetual Motion, this is about driving around in cars. It's kind of an autobiography in cars, which I think we all have if we start thinking back about the various car cabins that we've been in over the course of our lives, and stories start spilling out. Perpetual Motion. I drove, the Focus leapt, I slept inside a Civic for 4 nights at a rest stop. East of Harper, my whole existence packed into the trunk. I rode like a witness for misplaced luggage. I threw up in the cabin of a duct-taped Cavalier, Crown Vic, Astrovan, Beetle. Blame it on the road noise or the radio. Smart-ass friends who put me quick at ease. I shouted out the lyrics of the MC5 from the back seat of a stranger's Chrysler. Carried through the tributaries of the night toward what? A bedroom's near total stillness, stray headlights through the blinds, solitude. When I wake to stillness, think of stillness, ambushed by how tenuous a thing it is to breathe, listening as a neighbor's lamp or glass bursts against our shared wall. I think of where the crystal stillness leads and whisper, I don't want to go. I circle back, adrift in an age of endless leaving, as if home were not extraordinary. I called shotgun, bumped a cyclist, watched my sister swigging whiskey in her Cadillac as she slurred unprompted questions to the sky, the trees, the darkened houses. Ask me where the day began, and I'll tell you everywhere or nowhere how I steered an orphan friend's Kia up and down N3 from Detroit into the sticks until he quieted, then slouched from his grieving and into sleep, while beside the car, the ad-ridden fixtures of the strip malls and the churches blurred into a path of light.
He was.
Thank you, yeah.
You used the word auto.